Hello, beautiful strangers, and welcome back to another episode of Myth. When last we left off, we learned that there are no such things as coincidences in fiction. And no, that's it, pretty much. Yeah, there's no such thing as a coincidence in fiction. And you know, you can really take that to heart, because you can put that into effect in pretty much anything that you read, which is one of the reasons why I've never written a book to completion. I've attempted to. I've failed at it every time. We're not talking about that right now. But that's why when I run tabletop games, because I like to make stories and I like to tell stories. But when I'm DMing, GMing, insert term here, lore keeping, whatever. I like to put in just random coincidences that are honest to goodness coincidences, because it never happens in fiction, really. And, well, it'll drive your players fucking crazy if there's something that seemingly might be related and it's not. There's no proof of it being related. Not one bit. But I'm rambling. I should stop doing that. Anyway, let's get back into it, shall we? Have you ever thought that there's an end to this world? I mean, that the world would actually come to an end. This was hundreds of times worse than the kind of thing you'd see in sci-fi movies or whatever. I actually experienced this. I'm not lying. The world was actually coming to an end. Ow. I'm brushing my foot on my wall and it kind of, like my skin caught and it just kind of, yeah, because it's hot and I have no fan on and it's very, very warm. It's like, God, I think like 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside and I have no fan or AC on in my room and it's warm. And I'm sure my computer is very angry about that. It was obvious because it was written in the papers and because you could tell as much just by being there. I don't know who first came to realize it, but it must have been something really minor. It's colder, hotter this year compared to usual. Something like that. That's right, folks. This has a message, or something. There was sweltering heat during the day and freezing cold at night. The Earth's temperature became more and more erratic over time. Anyway, this does lead to what I was getting at about my life breaking down. To put it simply, my wife was able to endure that erraticism. I don't remember when that happened, but she ended up getting sick more frequently, ended up having to quit her job, and couldn't do much besides lie in bed. She'd vomit blood about once every week or so as well. And I do apologize, I'm sure I've said this before, about me popping my knuckles in the background. It's something I do when I'm A, nervous, and B, not doing something with my hands. And I'm just kind of resting them there and my hands get super stiff because I play guitar, among other things. I use my fingers a lot. And so I just need to pop my fingers, or they will pop when I move them, or my wrist will pop when I move it. And yeah, I don't actually know how loud it is or isn't being picked up on the mic, but I do apologize if that bothers you. It is a habit I've had for a very, very long time, and it's not one I'd be able to break. Of course, she had no choice but to quit her job. The doctor said she was seriously ill. I don't recall what the name of the disease that she had, but it had something to do with radiation. Anyway, she ended up dying because of that. How does this have anything to do with Asgard? Just wait a little longer. I'll be getting to that soon. The illness she had wasn't quite rare back then, but soon enough, it became more common. Many people ended up falling ill, and naturally, while my wife contracted it before us, my son and I also ended up sick. We kept on fighting until the very end, though. By the time we started vomiting blood, half the world's population had already fallen to this illness. I swear, I didn't choose this because of I swear. It's a coincidence, I swear. This isn't fiction. This is fiction, but this isn't fiction. You know what I mean. I had to quit the force by then. I didn't actually do it formally or anything, though. There was no public to serve by that point, and even if there was nothing us police could do for them. So, I quit. So what did I do then? I took care of my son, around the clock. It's not like I had anything else to do, nor anything else I should have been doing either. So I nursed my son for as long as I could. During the day, I'd use what little electricity we had to help cool my son off. And at night, I'd warm him up. And eventually, the end came. And that wasn't really an end for me either. It was more the end for the world. I really think I did my best. That was thanks in part to the remaining people in the government putting some environmental support devices in place. By the time there was no functioning government left, though, I knew it was the end. I'd look outside and see nothing but dead insects and vegetation, sometimes humans too, and all of them turned into black, charred husks. Yeah, that is essentially what happens if, and I'm not smart in any of the subjects that this would be related to, but it is my understanding from the lots of documentaries I've watched over the years, that is sort of what happens when the atmosphere and the magnetic field especially kind of start to go away. Because at that point there would be no real way for heat regulation because of the decrease in oxygen and gases and such just kind of no longer being held in place by gravity and the atmosphere and magnetic field and whatnot. And I'm an idiot, so don't take me too much into that. And I don't know everything and all the little details or how to explain it in a very way that makes sense, but I can try. Yeah, that's essentially, that's why things like Mars has very hot days, very cold nights, because there's not really much of in the way of an atmosphere on Mars. So, there's no protection from the solar winds and heat and whatnot. And on the other side of the planet, where there is no immediate, direct sunlight radiating onto the planet, it's significantly colder. And if you've ever actually been in a desert, it is hot, because there's no air to cool it down. Really, there's no humidity to help transfer coolness and whatnot. Or not, that's not what I mean. I think it's called... Bleh, I'm dumb. The deserts are cold at night and hot during the day. Not quite this drastically, but they are hot during the day, cold during the night. It's just there's no humidity, no rainfall, stuff like that. I think I'm explaining this well enough. I hope that makes sense. I'm moving on now. And all of them turned into black, charred hunks. The sun would melt them during the day, and they'd be refrozen at night. Yeah, I don't actually remember if it even says in this visual novel, but again, this seems like something that would happen, or makes me think of something that happens not from specifically global warming, although that can have a hand in it, with climate change and whatnot, but more so the weakening of the magnetic field around Earth and by extension the atmosphere. Less protection against solar radiation and solar storms and having more effect on the planet, something dealing with radiation and blah, 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 blah. Just my assumption, though. Because I don't actually remember if it says. If it does, I genuinely don't remember. And I probably didn't catch it. And they'd have no choice but to be subjected to that day after day. It was only natural, though. There were no television broadcasts anymore. No newspapers, no way of telling what year it was. Anyway, sorry for the wait. Let me get to the point. I met up with my sister again. It was all very sudden. She showed me her business card. Oh, religious organization Honkyo, PN 4832242. It said she was part of a religious corporation. Whether that was true or not, I didn't know, but she showed me that and said, "Have you ever thought about your happiness?" After that, she told me what she had been up to. It sounded completely pointless. But in the end, I ended up taking her up on her offer. I ended up going to where she had been living. It was some kind of institute. And no, not the institute. Problems with Fallout 4. Let's not talk about that. She had apparently been doing some kind of research there. She had completely changed. After meeting her so many years later, she reminded me of some sort of mad scientist, both in looks and personality. She proposed something to me, though. She said she put half of her life into that machine, and that a number of human souls lived on in it. Then, she said, there was a machine in some sci-fi thing long ago about being able to hear the voices of the dead, right? I don't remember what that is. But I think it's a reference to the type of thing called a ghost in a machine, but I don't remember for sure. And Ghost in the Machine being what influenced one of the sources from that being what influenced Ghost in the Shell, whatever. I don't remember for sure what this is referring to, but it is an actual thing. I've heard of it in the past. I've not read it, but I can't remember. The idea for this machine came from that, and now it's being turned into a database. A database of the dead, a program known as Myth. How to put it? By this point, I had already gone mad. I had been living next to death for so long that her proposal was incredibly appealing to me. This is what she said to me. Let me use your memory of someone special for my research. And once I'm done, you can meet her again in this machine. That's what she offered to me. So, I agreed to it. You don't have to believe me, but that's the truth I possess. I had my brain placed in that machine, apparently. After I agreed to let my sister do that and went inside that machine, I was in a completely different world. Together with my son. That world wasn't much different from the real one. There were still charred humans lying about on the road. I went to the place my sister specified, and I made friends there. The majority of them weren't charred like the others. They were survivors who lived in Asgard. 2 of them called themselves by fictional names, though. They were supposedly tools that my sister created to grant people hope within that machine. One was named Odin. The other was Valkyrie, if I recall. Valkyrie ordered me to be chained up in an underground cell. She said I'd be able to meet my wife again if I did that. I was there for ages. But eventually, I met a certain person. A very strange person. He spoke in a peculiar way as well. He ended up eating me. Valkyrie told me to let him do that. I had no idea why, though. Then she asked me to aid him, and once again said that I'd be able to meet my wife if I did so. So I did just that and ended up aiding him. And just as Valkyrie predicted, he disappeared. I ended up meeting with Hibiki, And here I am. Kind of a long story. Not a bad use of our time, though, right? All we can do is wait now. Silence is painful, after all. What? You didn't know? That's right. My sister was behind all of these illusions. It's all thanks to her that we're all living here like this. Even now, she's working on her own. Crazy story, right? That's why I said that all of this is real, but that it's up to you to decide whether it's the truth. So, it's all on you to decide whether this is true or not. Aha! Oh, I actually can't extra from this. Answer episode 2. Revelers. I'm going to take a quick drink very quickly. This tea is tasty. I just pressed enter and nothing happened because I'm an idiot. I wonder what'll happen tomorrow. I said that even though I knew there was no tomorrow waiting for us. I wonder. Riri-san continued with her act, though. Maybe they'll come back. Who? Hibiki. Huh? What? Biki-chan isn't coming back because She seemed to have noticed just how odd the line she said was. Fucking Odin. Her expression was filled with rage. She must have known what happened to Hibiki. Shadowless, grab the notebook. Grab the notebook. What an unnerving ending. What was Odin planning? The only thing I could say for sure was that Odin wanted us to coexist and with the shadows, and there was something besides that she must have granted to us. I had no knowledge of the truth behind Hibiki's disappearance, and the answer was buried with Riri. Riri would probably use her powers to regain her will again, but it was unlikely that she'd regain any memories from the previous loop. Because it wasn't like she could recall what would happen in the future, or now. What was the meaning behind what Odin was showing me? Was this just her playing around? No, was this all some sick joke? That seemed to be the most fitting explanation. In that case, I could never forgive Odin. If I ever met her, I'd perhaps. Assuming that this notebook will be left behind, if Odin would do something like that. No, she probably will do that. But it'll mean that I'll be the most advantageous position among the Einherjar, because it means that I'll be able to learn about what happened during this loop. It was my duty to follow the script. Therefore, the basis of all my actions in this world. So I'll choose to live. I love those shadows. To put an end to this crazy story, and so I can return from where I came, or to where I came. I'll love them. I vowed to do just that as I prayed for this final, frustrating scene to end. And the curtain closes, and the audience starts clapping. No, I'm kidding. Meito? I heard someone's voice at my back and turned around. What greeted me made me speechless. Riri-san? She was there, despite her head having just exploded earlier. I couldn't help but look back at Riri-san's corpse. Her corpse was still lying on the ground. What's going on? Look closely. She pointed at the ground. I looked in the direction she was pointing, and I was there. I was there wearing those familiar clothes with that familiar haircut. Everything was the same. We reached our expiration date, so to speak. Expiration date, so the 20th passed. So I exploded as well, just like So and Shimon. Then, what am I now? Even if we lost our bodies, our souls still persists. Something like that, at least. Are we ghosts, then? How can we never mention anything like that? And we're gonna. We'll play after I finish recording, I promise. Then, are Shimon and Kiki both here like this as well? I asked Aditi-san. She didn't respond, though, and instead began to walk away. This way. I followed behind her. Eto-san? So was sitting on the cushion in the living room. So... no, I'm... Kiki? Aditi-san immediately corrected me. I apologetically lowered my head before continuing. You're still in myth, even after what happened? That's right. I was still conscious of everything even after losing my body. I tried to talk to you and everyone, but... Yes, hi Kat, can I help you with something? It didn't work. Can you not do that? I don't know why you're doing that right now. You'd never sharpen your claws on my chair, thankfully. It didn't work. The reason for that is likely because we're nothing but spirits on pages. Why? Where's Shimon? Kiki tried searching for her from the 14th day onward, but she didn't manage to find her. So, after the 10th day, she went to Asgard? That would be the logical conclusion. I can't. I said, I see, and then sat down. So, is this like setup time or something? Among the things I could think of, that seemed the most likely. Neither our bodies nor our plot exists, so that would be the only explanation. Aditi-san seemed to think the same thing. Kiki, I want to ask you something. Did you feel any of the usual restrictions that are in place in the plot after the 14th day? No, I was able to move where I pleased of my own will. I didn't do anything that seemed particularly productive, so I don't think it was part of the plot, but... I see. Shadowless, we're likely thinking the same thing. It's time to escape, right? Yeah. Hi. Cat. If we can move on our own without the plot holding us back, then we can't just sit around like this. Good. Let's get going. Aditi-san stood up. Going? Where? To where Hibiki is. Huh? Aditi-san and Kiki didn't seem fazed by the reaction, though, as they both began to leave. I hurried behind them. You really can't think of anything? You were the one who brought up her location during the plot. We were in a space that could truly be deemed as nothing, as Aditi-san muttered that, her body but a wisp. Right. However, I tried to remember what I said back then, but I couldn't think of anything. It was like I had never said anything about it to begin with. Just before I was about to disappear, the plot began to speak of Hibiki. Aditi-san didn't wait for me to respond. Whether that was just Odin fooling around or a trap, I don't know, but regardless, I still remember it. So where is she? Asgard. What? I tried to keep up with Lady-san, using her voice as a guide to stay within a reasonable distance of her. It wasn't long until we reached a forest. Asgard is beyond this forest. This was a forest where So got lost during the plot. Wait a second. How can you have a place where the plot is being written inside the actual plot? That I don't know. All I know is that this is where Hibiki is. Hibiki-chan isn't coming back because she's returned to Asgard. You'll figure it out soon enough, as long as Asgard is actually beyond this forest. Riri-san said that with a sharp tone. I realized something as we proceeded deeper into the forest. The color was fading away from the world. I didn't notice it right away because it was so subtle, but eventually everything had turned gray. Who's that? There were people standing on the path we were walking on. Kiki? Or it was two girls. They seemed like statues as they stood there motionless in the forest. Yuniichi. Kiki muttered that to herself. You're just happy little cat right now, aren't you? Scratch, scratch, scratch. Huh? That's her name. Yuniichi? That was a name we'd never heard before in myth. What is she? I tried asking Kiki for more information. She didn't respond to my question, though. Look at the cliff. Riri-san signaled for us to come over a bit away from where we were. What's this? There were a number of corpses at the bottom of the cliff. I could tell even from where I was that they were all me. I'm not sure how we're supposed to take this, but all I could say was that this was crazy. Or so Riri-san said. Let's hurry. Kiki hurried us along, perhaps because she didn't want to look at the corpses. Yeah. And we did just that. Movement. And I think, the end/the reunion. What a lovely title for a scene. I think this is where I'm going to end off this episode. There's not a ton left. It might be more than one episode. I'm not sure. Like I said, like a couple episodes ago, like an hour or two, which again, I'm bad at gauging that, especially because of reading aloud. There really is not that much left. We are in the final stretches of the game. But it's not, I don't know. It depends on how long next episode is. I'm going to sit down tomorrow and see how I feel and see all of that. I don't think it's going to, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know how long things are going to take. Just because I don't know how long things are going to take to record. And I don't mean that as I'm tired of the series, because I'm not. I just like the ending of this visual novel quite a bit. And I typically like endings of stories. I have a thing. It's one of the reasons why I don't really read comics very much, is because I like endings. Even if the ending, in some cases, this is not one of them, at least not for me. Even if the ending is lackluster, kind of boring, doesn't live up to the hype of the rest of the series, and blah blah blah. I'm happier with an ending, with a concrete, solid ending. There's no more past this point, is what I mean by solid, concrete ending. By the way, there's nothing past this point. No more. There might be a sequel, there might be a prequel, but this story is a self-contained story from start to finish. Done. I like that. And well, I have stuff I want to do this year. Well, I have one thing I want to do this year. Beyond that, I don't know for sure. But yeah, well, we we march ever closer to the end next time. I hope to see you all there.